Okay. Oops. Oops. All right, Ricardo, how are you?
Hi, very good, thank you.
Yeah. Um, let's tell everyone on my audience, probably some of not everyone's seen you before. Let's introduce about yourself.
Hello, my name is Ricardo Flores. I am a home inspector. I have been in the business of home inspecting for over 3 years, and I've been in the market of housing for over 10 years.
Oh, very nice. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today, Ricardo.
Thank you, my
And
pleasure.
again, as I introduced to you at the beginning, we are going to talk about how to upkeep your home in Arizona nowadays. And there are three topics that I want to cover specifically in this video. The three topics is very sensitive to all of the Arizonans. One is about the AC system, and one is about the roof system and the water heater system. Okay, so with that said, let's talk about some ways to maintain the AC system.
Very good, Long. Well, one of the most convenient things that you should do for your air conditioning is to have a serviceman perform a yearly service. That is a recommendation for basically every unit. Just like you take your car to get the oil change every so many miles, we don't think in terms of our air conditioning that needs service, but it does. There are little parts that are not very expensive that need to be replaced more often. But if you don't, then something major could happen. So maintenance.
So with that insight, I mean, for the car, you mentioned about maintenance of the car, is sometimes I can do oil change myself, or sometimes I can do a certain thing myself, right? How about the AC system? Is there anything that I can do myself?
There are a few things that you can do as a homeowner. One of those things is to change the filters. And in fact, a recommendation, I wanted to bring a sample, is to change your air filter very often, more often than you may think. And the recommended ones are not the ones that you cannot see through, like this one. It's actually the ones that you can see through. They are translucent. And the recommendation is to change them every month. I know it sounds a lot, but they're actually cheaper. Those filters you can see through are cheaper, and it is better to change them every month. That's one of the things you can do.
I think I kind of messed up when you show up the the filter a little bit. So you say that this is may not be a recommendation for all size AC because it's too much.
Correct. Well, first of all, you're right. The size, you have to know the size of your air conditioning size. So you have to know what you're getting. This is just an example. What I was trying to explain is that if I put it in front of me, you see how it blocks me completely? You cannot see me. It is better the filters that you can see through, but you have to change them often, very often, every month.
I see. Okay, yeah, that's good to know. I didn't know that. I mean, I bought those at Costco myself too, and for a very simple reason, they are on good discounts, right?
And they're not bad filters, but because they're so thick, they may cause more. They make the unit work harder. It's like having a mask all of the time, and you get some sort of like an asthma attack in a way.
Right.
It's choking the air conditioning system. So that's why it's better to have a filtration system that allows the air to go through without so much trouble for the machine.
Gotcha. Thank you so much for that. Yeah. Anything else that you want to talk about the AC system?
Well, I like to always mention that if it's possible at all for you to look at your pan if you have a split system, which is a very common air conditioning system in Arizona, half of the unit is in the attic. And nobody really takes the time to go to the attic to look at the unit. But if you see water in the catch pan, which is like a little tray pan underneath the air conditioning unit, oh, that's a great picture. If you see that there is water under the catch pan, that's a problem. It's not supposed to be there. And at that time, you have to contact a licensed professional that is going to help you fix it. But it is not normal to see water in a tray pan, in a catch pan at all.
Gotcha. Oh, thank you so much. And then that isn't easy. I mean, we're not gonna go to the attic every single time,
Yes.
but anytime that you have a chance to go to the attic, take a look at that, see if any leakage, then you should call the AC technician right away.
And there is another way to see this, Long, if I
Oh,
may.
really?
You see how the air conditioning, you know where the drip line is from the air conditioning. You see it in the summer months that is dripping water. I hope you're familiar with this because you need to
Yeah.
know where that is.
Mhm.
It actually has to be in a conspicuous place. You need to know and see where it's at. You need to know where the little drip goes to. That's very important. But if you notice, there is a secondary line on top of that one high up, sometimes very high up. If that one drips, that's not normal. So the one on the bottom should drip all the time. The one on the top should not drip at all. And if it drips, it's probably going to drip with orange water, stained water with rust. That is the water that has been sitting on that catch pan that I was telling you. Now it's overflowing
Right.
and is dripping out. But that is pretty risky because if that catch pan overflows, the water is going to come out right in the middle of your living room. And it's going to be rusty water.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know.
Yes.
All right. I because we are in Arizona, so replacing an AC unit is not uncommon,
Yes.
right? So very common actually. Sometimes they replace that only the condenser units, right, and not the furnace units. Is there anything that you can say recommendation when they do that?
You definitely always want to use a licensed professional contractor, somebody that has a license from the state of Arizona, because sometimes to cut corners, some people may be able to replace. They can tell you, oh, I can only replace if you want just the condensing unit or just the exterior unit. But by doing that, they need to make sure that they are compatible because, for example, a train unit may not be compatible with a carrier unit. So you have to be careful. So if a technician is going to do something like this, first of all, you should know. Second, they should give you an assurance that they are compatible, because they are experts. They have lists, they have papers that says, yes, they are. And if they assure you they have a license, of course, I have no problem with that. But unfortunately, I see in the field units that have been replaced with a much newer unit on the exterior. So you think it's a new air conditioning unit. But when I go into the attic to look, it's the original unit from 20 years ago.
Oh.
So that tells me, just based on the year, they're probably not compatible.
Mhm.
And so that second unit that is all in the attic may need to be replaced. And let's hope that that unit doesn't damage the other unit because they work together. It's a split system.
Yeah. So one of the signal they are not compatible is different brand names, right?
Yes. Imagine if you have a Chevy truck and you get a Dodge transmission for your Chevy truck.
Right.
There's gonna be some problems there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. I think, and again, if you do have any question for Ricardo directly regarding the topic we are talking about today, feel free to give him a call, of course. But during the webcast, if you want a live answer, feel free to put a question in the comments, and I will reiterate the question to Ricardo. Okay. The second topic we want to talk about, of course, is roof system, right? In Arizona, AC, roof are the two most important things in the house. And what are some ways to maintain, to upkeep the roof system in Arizona?
You know, one of the simplest things that we all should do is do not allow any trees to get in contact with the house. You don't want any branches to touch the roof or even drop the leaves on your roof. That's the first line of defense. You have to trim those trees and bushes and do not allow the leaves to fall on the roof. They truly damage the roof. You would not believe how much damage they can cause.
Yeah, and sometimes if the bridge is too much, right? Sometimes some trees can grow on that as well.
Yes, I actually see plants growing sometimes on the roof, and you could not believe it. It's amazing because you have to clean these roof systems often enough. Mm-hmm. Think of this: when it rains, the water is going to find its way out of the roof, and if something is blocking the channel that is created for that roof, the water is going to go find other areas, and it may find a way inside your living room, and you do not want that.
No. Okay. How about the the secondary roof system, you're talking about keeping all the trees away from the primary roof system. How about the secondary roof system?
You definitely want to do the same for all roofs, primary
Oh.
and secondary. You want to do it for both.
And by the way, when
yes.
we talk, I'm sorry to interrupt
No.
you. When we talk about secondary roof system, we're talking about a patio and things like that. It's not cover the primary section of the home, you know? Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So when we refer as a secondary roof, it's like the patio roof in your backyard. Beautiful. You know what? That's what you see in the afternoons. That's great. But those roofs sometimes, most of the times, are flat roofs. And those roofs need just a little bit more maintenance. They're great, but they need more maintenance. And of course, if we're talking about debris on those roofs, the water can actually travel back into the house, against the house, interrupting the flow of water. Because a flat roof, I know we call it flat roofs, but they're not 100% flat. They do have a minimal slant, less than 2¼ inches per foot. So that's what we call it flat. But there's still certain amount of slant to it. But you definitely don't want to have any debris on those. And no roof, but especially flat roofs.
Yeah. And I'm showing a pictures where there's plenty of damage to the patio roof right there, which sometimes scare a lot of buyers. But there's a simple way to fix this, right?
Yes, definitely you want to always call a licensed roofer to tell you the final word on how to fix things. But this is a very interesting thing because I see two big mistakes there. One would be that the roof shingle was not put all the way to the end, to the drip line. So it's too short. You can see that little separation between the metal. So that's not supposed to be like that. They made a mistake when they installed it. The second is that the roofing material, the shingle itself, that is called a roll roofing, just so you know. It's cracked. You can see that it looks like an alligator skin, right? Those are cracks. Now, at this point, that roof has to be reported as deficient and it needs service. But in answer to your question, Long, you don't need to spend a lot of money on that one. Actually, that looks worse than what it really is. Because a good roofer is aware of something called, there's nowadays, this didn't exist 10 years ago, by the way. There's some systems called elastomeric. They also go by different names. You can go to Home Depot or Lowe's, and they'll have different brand names. But think of it like a thick paint that will seal the entire roof. And some roofers agree with those things because that's such a good material that can give you 5 or 10 years extra of lifespan for that roof. So you're basically painting over with a very specific material called elastomeric that will prolong the life of that roof. So for maybe $40, $60, if you do it yourself, if you can roll it, it's just paint. Really, it looks like paint. But you have to know how. You don't have to know what to do. So maybe you want to hire somebody to do it. But that roof, I would say, you can do that and extend another 5 or 10 years.
Really?
Even though it looks really bad, right?
Yeah. So instead of just spending thousands of dollars to replace the entire roof, you can just applying that paint and protect the roof already.
Yes, and you always want to ask to more than one person.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's a good one, right?
Yeah. Easy way to fix that. Now, the next question that I have is, of course, about a water heater system. So what are some ways to upkeep the water heater?
You know, what amazes me about water heaters, Long, is that everybody looks very surprised when I say that that water heaters require maintenance. Everybody's like, wait, what?
Wait, what?
Maintenance on a water heater?
Yeah.
They actually do have a yearly maintenance that is supposed to be taking place. But
really?
And I have to be honest, I sometimes don't do it every year either. But I try to do it at least every 2 years. We're supposed to empty those tanks. If you notice, there's an actual valve at the bottom of the water heater. And if you ever wonder, why would they put that valve? It's actually to empty the valve. You have to turn it off, empty the water. And that's one of the things you have to do. You have to drop off the water because it will come out. You will not believe the water that comes out because the rust and the calcification of the water heater actually goes to the bottom. So think of the cylinder of the water heater. At the bottom, all the heavy residue is there. So when you open that valve, the first time I did a service on mine, I couldn't believe it. I was showering with this water. These whitish lumps of calcium and what God knows what it is, and some rust just kept pouring out. I filled the tank again, and I dumped it again, and it kept doing that. I did it for like 2 or 3 times until the water was finally clear.
Oh.
I was amazed. And the second thing is a little bit more complicated. It's called the sacrificial anode rod. That is a little bit more involved. And if you don't know what you're doing, you better want to hire a person that knows how to service that, because that's basically a piece of metal that goes inside the water heater. You have to turn off the water heater, let it cool down. You take off this wire rod, and that wire rod actually, it looks horrible when you take it off because it looks like a rock. It looks like it's a calcium formation. But when you see the new one, it's just like a pristine, itty bitty, thin, metallic looking rod. But that one attracts all the gunk, and you're supposed to take that out of the water heater and throw it away. They're worth like maybe $10, and you put a new one in. And we're supposed to do that every year. Now, I don't do that every year. Like I said, I don't want to. I want to always be honest, but we're supposed to.
Right.
But at least every 2 to 3 years, you should try to do it. That will prolong the life of the water heater for sure.
How about the water pressure? The main water pressure coming into the house.
That is a very good question, and I know you know things, because water pressure. Home inspectors, most of us, actually, I think all of us, should be testing how much pressure is the city water getting into your pipe. So we measure the pressure from the city coming into the house. If that pressure is higher than 80 psi, you want to have a plumber install a valve to reduce the pressure before it enters the house. Why? Because water heaters work with a lot of pressure. That's why they have something called temperature and pressure relief valves for emergency, because you know hot water, you've seen this in your house when you're boiling water. If you try to contain it with a lid, the pressure of the hot water is going to pop. It's a lot of pressure. So if on top of that pressure that already is built into the tank, the water pressure is high, you can actually damage the water heater sooner than it needs to be. A water heater that could last maybe 10 years can only last 2 years if the pressure is too high. And I see leaks all of the time in water heaters.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of sad.
Yeah, and the pressure regulator is an easy way to adjust the pressure, right?
It's the best way for sure, and they're not expensive. As far as I understand, the regulator itself is only like 30 to 40, maybe $60.
Oh,
it's more of the cost of the plumber to come and install it, basically. But if you have the plumber already in your place doing something else, maybe they can do it at that time. But it is to preserve your water heater, actually.
I see.
It's amazing, right?
Wow, yes.
I didn't know that 3 years ago either.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, very simple tips and tricks to upkeep the home. And I know that AC, roof, and water heaters are the three things that all the buyers are concerning about, especially in Arizona, right? You cannot live in a house in Arizona without an AC system, for sure, without a good roof system and the water heater, right? So those are all the three things that buyers asking all the time. And thank you so much for providing those tips, very simple tips to prevent bad things could happen to those systems. As a homeowner, that is your responsibility to upkeep your home.
And I know that not everybody knows how to do these things, but you can always call and ask.
Yeah.
And nowadays you can even look at videos on YouTube and different outlets before you do something.
Yes.
And don't risk yourself. Like, roofs are very dangerous. So I'm not saying just climb up on a ladder and go to your roof, because you can actually cause damage to your roof as you walk. Believe it or not, before I was trained on how to walk on different types of roofs, where to put your foot, where not to step. There are certain things that you have to know. So just be aware of the things that you need to do. But along that I think about it, you can also look at your roof from the sides.
Right.
Look at it. If something looks off, it is off. After a storm, we have sometimes monsoon season here in Arizona. After strong wind, strong rain, go outside, take the time, look at your roof. And if something looks out of alignment, if something looks different than the rest, something is wrong.
I see. Oh, wow. Thank you so much again, Ricardo, for attending today. And if you do have any question for Ricardo, anything about home inspection, home maintenance, upkeep your home, of course, Ricardo is going to have more tips, but because of the time limited for this show, I only talk about the three most important things. His phone number is on the screen, 602-418-1155.
Give me a call.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. And hope to see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Lon.